Good day, dear compatriots. Today is the 1st of March. We have many questions to discuss today, which relate to both Armenia and international events. We saw three things that happened in the White House between Zelensky and Trump. That argument, what was that? It was unprecedented in the history of the United States of America. We will definitely address those issues as well. Also, Zelensky's interview with Fox News is also very important. By the way, we will now try using artificial intelligence. If the translation of that interview from English to Armenian works out, I will definitely post it on our YouTube channel. But if it doesn't work out, of course, I won't be able to post it. If there are many inaccuracies in that interview, translating it is one thing, but another thing is translating it accurately. The translation from English to Armenian has already been done, but we will also talk about that interview. I want to quickly remind you about the importance of likes, and we must start with news related to Armenia, as there are important updates concerning Armenia as well. The Embassy of the United States of America reported wonderful news, in that the Embassy of the United States of America welcomed the agreement signed between Lydian Armenia and Armenia to start a larger-scale mining project in Amulsar. You know, on this topic perhaps, what others are sincere about. I should say that about 10 days ago I also sent a letter to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. Naturally, I didn't want to talk about that letter, but since there is already such a result, I will say a little bit that letter was about how important it is that now, as we see Trump's policies celebrating how important rare metals are to them, it is very important that the American, why did they export something to Armenia, especially Syunik? If there is an American flag, if there is a European flag, if the Republic of Armenia benefits. We are not indebted to the United States of America, nor to the European Union, that is, they did not protect us in the same way that tens of billions, even 100 billions of dollars, were not invested in Ukrainian Armenia. And, therefore, we can sign such agreements, offer such agreements that clearly correspond to our interests, and passively. If in Syunik, in various regions of Armenia, it's not just about the rare metals industry with different American companies. We need to consider various American and European companies, and we must balance all of this. Why not include European companies as well? We see that the world really needs to be balanced. We should be able to attract not only Americans, but also Europeans to maintain that balance. We will be stronger, and I am very happy that it's a shame about our letter and the work of many experts being highlighted. I see that Stepan Grigoryan is talking a lot about this. I also see that Aram Sargsyan is discussing it a lot, and we are addressing this issue as well, along with many political scientists and politicians. I am convinced that they have addressed this issue, and it is extremely important that there is indeed an American presence in Armenia, and not just American, as I already mentioned. I mentioned in this regard that the agreement signed between Lydian Armenia and Armenia is very important news. Those large-scale industrial projects in Amulsar, and I will say it very clearly so that no other questions arise. As for the ecological damage, of course, I'm not an ecologist. I don't know, but the new company is using new methods and technologies, and that's one thing. Secondly, if we don't do all of this, we will face security risks. If there are no American and European companies in Armenia, we will have those risks. That's why I believe that the benefits are much greater for both the economy and security. As for the risks, I don't even want to talk about this, but I'll say this. Let me put it this way. If I don't say it, our opponents definitely will. It is possible that they are making promises to others at our expense. If they have the opportunity to seize some territories from Armenia, they might try, but they won't have such an opportunity. They could be making promises to others at our expense. That's why we need to benefit from our mines. The Republic of Armenia should profit from them. We need to monitor our ecology as well. I also need to ensure our security with this. Now, a natural question might arise for you, like, is it reliable? I saw what happened at the White House and so on. That's a different issue, and let me say right away that we will continue discussing that question later. Zelensky also said on Fox News that he is ready right now to sign the agreement regarding rare metals between the United States and Ukraine. Right now, if he is invited to the White House, he will sign it. Even if it has been signed between the ministers and everything is ready, Ukraine is agreeing and will go to sign that agreement on the Ukrainian side, and they said that this is just the beginning of security guarantees. There are things that need to be said together for Ukraine. That's why I also want to bring up a part of the interview I mentioned on Fox, and then we will continue our discussion regarding Armenia. Yesterday, Nikol Pashinyan also shared very important information. Details about the checkpoint. Armenia is connected to Turkey. The checkpoint has been completely renovated by the Armenian side, and now only the Armenian side will carry out the services there. Nikol Pashinyan also expressed gratitude to the Russian side, which is extremely important, as they managed to leave the Armenian-Turkish border in a very smooth and correct manner without any issues. It's great that this transition is happening so smoothly, and now that border point will be fully monitored by the Armenians, the Armenian border guards. This is also very important, and as far as I understand, a significant fact. Now, all the checkpoints that connect the Republic of Armenia with both Iran and Georgia, and now also with Turkey, are being controlled solely by the customs service of the Republic of Armenia. The border guards, this is extremely important information for us. Let's talk about international issues which are very important, and we see what is happening, what actually happened at the White House. The situation is very complicated. That argument is really tough. This has never happened before in its history. It's the first time something like this is occurring in the White House. In fact, the press conference did not take place because Trump and Zelensky couldn't reach an agreement, and Trump also demanded that Zelensky leave the White House quickly. Zelensky acted accordingly and left the White House immediately, heading straight to the Fox News office in order to interview the little other there live. Here are also important subtle statement that Trump. It is possible that they are already considering the suspension of military aid to Ukraine. Marco Rubio has also made a statement. Everyone is demanding that Zelensky apologize, admitting that he was wrong, and return to the White House only when he is ready for peace. We remember that even before that meeting, there was a clear impression that something was going to be imposed and that they were going to force some agreement on certain matters, and that's exactly what happened. In fact, that's why that argument occurred, but it is very important that if the United States now stops, support for a peaceful Ukraine will result in a significant loss for Ukraine. I must say that the SHOS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, started to support immediately. Zelensky was the first to respond. Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, made a serious statement that Russia is the aggressor, while Ukraine is the people subjected to aggression. This statement speaks volumes, especially considering the argument that was happening at the White House. It seemed that Putin wanted peace, while his wife did not want peace. Zelensky is refusing peace. So it gave the impression that Ukraine is to blame for this war. And here Macron's statement seems to put everything in its place, but it's not just Macron. Leaders from numerous European countries began to respond very quickly, almost at lightning speed. The Prime Minister of Poland wrote that, "Dear Ukrainian friends, you are not alone. Poland is with you," and the candidate for Chancellor also responded. The candidate who won in the Bundestag, Friedrich Merz, wrote that, "Dear Ukrainians, we are with you whether in a good situation or a bad one, whether you are in difficult conditions or good conditions. And we should never confuse the aggressor with the victim. That is, we do not confuse the aggressor with the victim. This is how European leaders are actually responding to the argument that took place in the White House. The European decision-makers have also added that Europe will never betray or abandon Ukraine. The president of Lithuania has also responded to the events, stating that Ukraine, you will never be alone. The Prime Minister of Spain has expressed himself in a similar manner, and so on. After that, Zelensky also made a statement expressing gratitude to America, thanking the American people for their visit, and thanking Trump. He wrote that Ukraine needs a fair and strong peace. I think this meaning is clear, as the water virus demanded. Such gratitude during that argument, thanking the well-known Trump and the Americans for their support, and with that statement, in fact, Zelensky expresses gratitude and later also on Fox News. Let's move on. I should mention the main idea of that interview on Fox. During the broadcast, Zelensky thanked the American people several times for their support, emphasizing that it is very important for Ukraine. Ukraine has a significant shortage, a great need for weapons and ammunition. He says that he wants peace, and no one can want peace more than Ukraine. There are simply no guarantees that this war won't start. He says that he is ready. And Ukraine is ready to sign that document with the United States. The United States is a strategic partner, and if that document is to be signed now and the Armenian side is ready to sign it, there was also information released that Donald Trump is no longer interested in the document regarding those rare metals. There was also a statement made to Zelensky regarding whether he would return to the White House and negotiate if the opportunity arose right now. Zelensky said that he is not ready at this moment. He will not return to the White House. It's the same as saying, if Zelensky is not ready to come to an agreement on peace, then he should not return to the White House now. And in fact, as I already mentioned, you have started discussing it with the White House. The idea, the approach, is to deprive Ukraine of military aid as well. When Zelensky was on Fox, there was a statement from one senator saying that Zelensky should also resign, change his approaches, seek peace, and step down. Zelensky clearly responded that it is the people of Ukraine who will decide what his fate will be, and no one can force them to resign. He respects the choice of the American people. Everyone is approaching the European elections with respect, and everyone should respect the choice of the Ukrainian people. This clarifies that the United States must decide who will be the president of Ukraine. Also, information spread at lightning speed that the U.S. Secretary of State is stopping the restoration of Ukraine's energy system. We remember when Russia was delivering major strikes, the United States was helping to restore the energy system very quickly, investing millions of dollars, and now the Secretary of State is also refusing to restore it. The energy system of Ukraine is indeed in a very complicated situation, but the United States is not just about the presidency. The voices and decisions of Congress and the Senate hold much greater and more important significance. I believe that today, this statement and the decisions made are still very significant. This will lead to significant discussions in the United States, and in addition, the Canadian Foreign Minister has made a statement noting that Canada needs to get closer to Europe and the European Union. This is the kind of situation we are in. In fact, there are quite serious disagreements among allies, and there are significant problems. Returning to what happened in the White House, I must be objective and say the following. In my opinion, I will now say what may not be pleasant to many, but it is the reality. In my opinion, Zelensky should have prepared much better before going to the White House, especially by being ready to celebrate Trump's mood himself. He had already received insults from the president, who called him a clown and threatened the leaders, and it was very possible that this conflict would have happened. But Although Zelensky was generally right as a person, as a politician, as a leader of the country, at the same time he made the wrong diplomatic moves, allowed the tension to arise in the White House. He didn't work in a way that would neutralize that tension. It seems that he himself fell victim to that provocation. I don't know whose provocation it was, but in any case, I imagine that this will cause greater damage to Ukraine. It will definitely make it more difficult for Europe to help Ukraine, although it will give a greater opportunity for the transformation to be European. Or it will be European, or not. In general, the European Union may even collapse or become much more powerful. Now that issue has been raised, it seems to me that a lawsuit is on the agenda, but in my opinion, Zelensky should have consulted with various psychologists, various experienced political figures, so that he could, to better understand how to communicate with Trump, who is a logically complex personality, he should have found a clear approach to Trump and been able to speak in a way that would favor Ukraine. But now we see that, in fact, Trump is opposing Ukraine and is leaning more towards Vladimir Putin. This is the reality. In any case, I saw a lack of diplomacy. Zelensky got nervous, his nerves got the better of him, and he was unable to manage the situation. To lead oneself and what actually happened. I repeat, Zelensky himself in general as a leader was right. But there are many consequences to speaking the right thing and acting right. The bad and terrible consequences could have serious impacts on Ukraine, and he should have understood that better. Before going to the White House, if the specific goal was to provoke such a dispute, it's hard to say, but it could also change his approaches because we know, for example, that Vice President Kamala Harris has criticized Donald Trump very harshly in the past, and she was quite rough in her expressions towards Trump. But now they are together. They are together, and there are no issues. In other words, Trump is also capable of forgiving such insults, and that's something we know. Is it possible like this after 6? Will they be able to build a relationship? If they can build one now, they will be able to rebuilding relations with each other. Then it is possible that Ukraine will receive even more. But at first glance, and the first statement of Trump, which specifically refers to the fact that the United States of America may discuss the issue of stopping the supply of military assistance to Ukraine, the issue of supporting the energy system in America, the State Department announced, and so on and so forth, or on stage constantly also, that they are no longer interested in these rare metals. The pain testifies to the fact that Ukraine really has very difficult times ahead. I hope my point of view is clear. A rather serious and large summit will take place in London now. Zelensky will immediately leave for London from the United States of America, and the center of attention will already be in London, and I think that quite serious and very serious statements should be made there, because I believe there's indeed nothing left to wait for. Europe needs to show what it is capable of and what actions it can take in these circumstances. That's about it, dear compatriots. Overall, I want to reiterate my impression that as a leader, Zelensky is quite a good leader. He doesn't want to negotiate behind the backs of his military and doesn't want to make unjustified major concessions. But on the other hand, as a politician and a diplomat, he needs to be flexible. The diplomat himself was not ready to travel to the United States of America and did not have a specific proposal. He had an interesting proposal to make to Trump. He couldn't get Trump to support him. And vice versa. He got into an argument, which is obviously very bad for Ukraine right now. I repeat, everything is going to depend more on this. From Europe and also from the transformation of thought that might happen with Zelensky. If Zelensky tries to find a slightly different way to communicate with Trump, I'm not saying to accept all of Trump's demands, but rather to find some common ground with him. Naturally, that alone won't be enough for Ukraine. It also needs to express gratitude to Trump. Okay, and so on and so forth. In other words, such a statement will not change anything in the long run. We see what actually happened when the leaders of the two countries met with each other. Let's see, in any case, we need to be optimistic, because everything that is happening right now, it definitely concerns Ukraine and Europe. It also concerns us to Armenia and Georgia. At this point, I wish everyone success. Goodbye, and we'll meet again.